AITA for losing my cool when my sister tried to ruin my wedding? My sister crashed my wedding in the most insane way possible. She wore a bridal-looking dress, used my stuff, laughed during my ceremony, and then humiliated me in front of everyone at the reception. You won't believe what she did next. I'm 28F. I got married a little over 3 months ago. It was supposed to be one of the calmest, happiest days of my life. We kept it small on purpose. No huge venue, no over-the-top decorations, no celebrity-level budget. Just a simple, elegant day with people who were supposed to care about us. I personally paid for a big part of it along with my partner. Every single detail, from the seating to the playlist to the timing, was carefully planned for over a year. The only uncertainty? My older sister. I'll call her Nora, 32F. Nora and I have never had what you'd call a sisterly bond. There's always been tension, competition, little digs, little comments, little attempts at one-upping. She's the type who can't stand it when attention isn't on her. But despite all that, a part of me genuinely believed she would keep it together for one day. Just one. I was trying to be optimistic. That was my mistake. It started before the ceremony even began. She didn't come late like you'd expect for someone who doesn't care. She came early. So early that when I walked into the bridal suite, I literally stopped in the doorway because I thought I'd walked into the wrong room. She was sitting at the vanity that was clearly set up for me. My makeup brushes, my mirror, my chair, my space. She had my good lipstick in her hand, my perfume open on the counter, my hair accessories scattered around. She was propping her phone on different angles, taking selfie after selfie, and FaceTiming her friends. I heard one of them say through the phone, "You look like the main character." And she smiled like she had just won something. Then I looked at her dress. It wasn't technically white, but it might as well have been. It was that pale, pearlish shade that photographs almost the same as a bridal gown. Lace sleeves, a fitted waist, a dramatic flowy skirt. Way too fancy, way too bridal adjacent. For a second, I just stood there in silence, trying to process what I was seeing. I finally said, as calmly as I could, "Hey, that dress is a little close to white, don't you think?" She didn't even look at me properly. She just smirked in the mirror and said, "Relax. It's not my fault your dress is boring." That sentence punched the air right out of my chest. Not because I believed it. My dress was beautiful, but because of the pure disrespect in her voice. The arrogance, the intention behind it. One of my friends standing nearby whispered, "Is she serious right now?" I didn't answer. I physically swallowed the anger because I didn't want chaos before I even walked down the aisle. The tension was already thick enough to choke on. Then came the ceremony. We had chosen close friend to play acoustic guitar while I walked down the aisle. Soft music, emotional, simple, quiet, everything I wanted. The moment the first chord was played, I started taking steps forward. My heart was racing. My hands were slightly shaking. I was focused on my partner waiting at the front. And then I heard it. Nora's voice. Loud, sharp, cutting through the moment like glass breaking. She was laughing. Not a subtle little chuckle. Not an emotional laugh. A full, careless, attention-seeking, high-pitched laugh. I watched heads in the crowd turn. Someone near her said, "Sh." Someone else looked back in confusion. And she just kept whispering something to the person next to her, followed by another burst of laughing. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I tried to block it out and keep walking. Every step felt heavier. Every second felt like a test of self-control. I knew she was doing it on purpose. She wanted me to feel small walking toward the happiest moment of my life. She wanted to remind me that even on my wedding day, she could still get inside my head. And she succeeded. But the worst part hadn't even happened yet. Later, during the reception, people were eating, chatting, relaxing. The atmosphere was supposed to be warm, intimate, happy. We never gave Nora a microphone. She was not on the speech list. She wasn't asked. She wasn't expected to say anything. But our DJ made one small mistake. He left a microphone on a table, still active. Nora spotted it. She didn't hesitate for 1 second. She grabbed it, stood up like she was being honored, tapped it twice, and said, "Well, since I know her better than anyone." The room went silent out of confusion. And then she started talking. She called me a difficult teenager. She joked about how I was desperate for attention in high school. She talked about how I used to beg people to like me. She brought up old situations that I had buried and never thought I'd have to hear again, especially not in front of my partner, his family, my friends, everyone. She looked at my husband and actually said, "Good luck. She gets bored easily." Some people laughed awkwardly out of pure discomfort. Some just stared in horror. One of my friends literally had her hand over her mouth. My husband didn't move, didn't smile, didn't laugh. He just looked shocked. My hands were shaking so hard I had to grip the edge of the table. And then Nora finished with, "Anyway, someone had to tell the truth," and casually placed the mic back like she just performed a stand-up routine. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped completely. I walked straight up to her, grabbed her arm, and said through my teeth, "Come with me." Now, I didn't whisper it. I didn't try to be sweet. People heard the anger in my voice. voice. Outside, I let everything out. "What is wrong with you?" I yelled. "You humiliated me on purpose in front of everyone." She crossed her arms and actually laughed in my face. "Oh my God, you are so dramatic. Any second where the attention isn't on you, you freak out." I lost it. "Are you serious?" I shouted back. "This was my wedding, not your comedy show. You wanted to destroy my moment because you can't stand seeing me happy." She rolled her eyes and said it louder, so people nearby could probably hear. "Maybe if you weren't so insecure, jokes wouldn't hurt you so much." That's when I went nuclear. "Insecure? You walked in here dressed like a fake bride, used my stuff, laughed during my ceremony, then tried to turn my life into a joke in front of my husband. You are embarrassing. You are pathetic. This is why no one takes you seriously." She stepped closer to me, chest puffed out, voice venomous. "You think you're better than me now just because someone put a ring on your finger? You were nothing before today, and you'll be nothing after too." I didn't back down. "And you're still nothing even after today? The only difference is now everyone saw it." Then my mom came outside, already shaking her head before she even reached us. "What are you doing?" she snapped at me. "Why are you causing a scene?" I turned to her in disbelief. "A scene? She just trashed me in front of my husband, and you're mad at me." "She was just joking. This is how she is," my mom said. I stared at her and said, "Then this is how I am. I will not accept that garbage anymore." My dad got involved too, telling me I was being dramatic, that I should let it go for the sake of the family. The family. Always the family. But nobody told her to apologize. Nobody told her to stop. Nobody told her she crossed the line. I was the problem. As always, I walked away from all of them. I went back in, finished the night with my partner, trying to salvage whatever dignity and happiness I could, but something had fundamentally broken. I haven't spoken to her since. And since that day, people have been calling, texting, messaging. "You should be the bigger person. She didn't mean it. It's your sister. You're overreacting. You're holding a grudge. You're dividing the family. Get over it already." But what about the fact that she stood there at my wedding and tried to tear me in half with her words? What about the fact that she laughed while doing it? What about the fact that she has never once said, "I'm sorry"? Why is it always on me to forgive, to stay quiet, to absorb the damage? Why is no one telling her to grow up? So here I am, 3 months later, still replaying that day in my head, still hearing the laughing, still hearing the comments, still feeling that humiliation burning in my chest. And I honestly don't know if I'm crazy or if I'm the only sane one in a group of people who are used to excusing her behavior. I'm not speaking to her. I'm not pretending nothing happened. I'm not playing happy family, and I refuse to apologize for that. Update 1. 2 days after the wedding, while I was still exhausted and emotionally wrung out, someone sent me a screenshot. It was her account. She had posted a whole carousel of photos from my wedding. Close-ups, candid shots, even a picture of me from behind while I was fixing my dress. The worst part wasn't just that she used the photos. It was the captions. Even side characters shine sometimes. Guess who carried the whole event? Main energy doesn't need the title. People I don't even know were in her comments telling her she looked like the bride, telling her she owned a room, telling her she should have been the one at the altar. Some of her friends were straight up insulting me without even knowing me, calling me basic, calling my look plain, saying, "The prettier one is obvious." My hands were actually shaking. I felt sick. My chest felt hot. It was like being embarrassed all over again, but 100x worse because now it was public. I messaged her one time. I kept it simple. I said, "Take those photos down. That was my wedding." Her reply came back almost immediately. "It's not my problem if people like my face better." That sentence did something to me. It wasn't just rude. It was deliberate, cruel, calculated. It was her way of saying, "I enjoyed this. I wanted this, and I'd do it again." So yeah, I blocked her. No announcement, no warning, just gone. And instead of that being respected, that's when the phone call started. First it was my aunt. She didn't even say hello. She launched straight into, "What is wrong with you? Do you enjoy hurting people?" I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "You embarrassed your sister by blocking her instead of talking it out like an adult." I actually laughed out loud. A sharp, ugly laugh. I said, "Are you joking right now? Did you even see what she posted?" She said, "She was just having fun. You're too sensitive. You've always been too sensitive." Something snapped. I raised my voice and said, "No, she humiliated me at my wedding and after, and anyone who thinks that's fun is just as messed up as she is." Then she hung up on me. Then my cousin texted, "Why are you creating drama? You're ruining the family over jealousy." Jealousy over my own wedding. I replied, "Jealous of what? Her desperation for attention? The fact she needs validation from strangers because she can't stand not being the center of my one day? Please." She didn't write back after that. Then my mother called. The second I heard her sigh on the phone, I already knew. That exhausted, disappointed tone, like I was a problem she had to deal with again. She said, "Why do you insist on making everything a conflict?" And for once in my life, I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. I didn't soften my voice. I said, "No. Why do you insist on letting her walk all over me and then blaming me for reacting?" She went quiet, then said, "She was just joking. You know how she is." I snapped back, and I am supposed to just take it it because that's how she is? You raised her to believe she can do whatever she wants without consequences. She told me I was being disrespectful, that I was upsetting the family, that I was overreacting. So I told her the truth. If calling out awful behavior upsets you, then you're part of the problem. That didn't go over well. I started getting passive-aggressive messages from people who weren't even at the wedding. Friends of family, distant relatives, people who saw her version of the story first. She told them I screamed at her for no reason, that I was unhinged, that I was bitter because she looks better in photos. I wanted to scream. Instead, I started screenshotting everything she posted. Every comment, every caption, every little dig disguised as a joke. Then, 3 days after blocking her, she found another way in. She made a second account and messaged me. You seriously can't take a joke. You embarrassed yourself. And honestly, your husband could have done better. That was it. I lost it. I typed back. You don't get to talk about my relationship like that when you can't even keep one for more than a month. The only reason you came to my wedding was to compete with me because you can't stand that something in my life is real and stable. You live on attention, and when you don't have it, you go insane. She responded with laughing emojis. That hurt more than anything. Not sadness, just pure, furious disbelief at how cold someone can be. After that, my husband stepped in. He sent her one message from his phone. Do not contact her again. Ever. She replied to him with, blink twice if she forced you to say that. He blocked her too. Now the narrative has shifted. Now I'm being called controlling, dramatic, poisonous, like I'm some kind of villain for not letting someone disrespect me nonstop. What they don't say is that she hasn't apologized once. Not once. Not a single genuine word. Just jokes, smirks, memes, sarcasm. And people are still defending her like she's the victim. One family member even said, you know she's insecure. Why are you being so harsh? I fired back. Being insecure doesn't give you a free pass to tear me down in public. That shut them up. Things are tense now. Really tense. Family group chats are silent. People separate into sides during conversations. Some avoid me. Some secretly support me, but don't say it out loud. Her name is still being whispered, and mine is spoken like I'm the difficult one. Update 2. The lies didn't come at me all at once. They came in pieces. Little comments, side remarks, things said softly and half laughing, like they were testing the reaction. Someone I barely speak to pulled me aside at a gathering and said, almost casually, I heard your husband almost walked away at the wedding. I actually blinked and laughed because it sounded so ridiculous. What? Yeah, that's what Nora said. That he was unsure and you were basically dragging him through it. That never happened. Not even close. There wasn't even a moment of hesitation. No arguing. No scenes. Nothing even slightly dramatic between us that night. We danced together. We laughed together. We left together like any normal couple. Another person told me, I heard you were drunk and crying most of the reception. I said, I didn't drink a single thing. They looked confused and said, well, that's not what she told people. It hit me then. She wasn't just being petty. She was rewriting the entire event. In her version, I was unstable, emotional, embarrassing. In her version, she was the calm, composed one who had to deal with me, and people were starting to believe it. That was the part that made my blood boil. Not that she was lying. She's always lied. It was that people who smiled in my face at the wedding were now side-eyeing me like I was a problem they had to be careful around. So I broke my silence. I posted my side once. One time. No name calling. No direct tags. Just facts. I wrote exactly what she had done. The dress. The laughter. The speech. The posts. The captions. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't soften it either. Within hours, people started asking questions under the post. What kind of person does that at a wedding? Why would anyone do that to their own sister? Why are people defending her? And that's when she panicked. She instantly started deleting old comments. She removed several photos. She locked her page for a full week. Messages that had been up for months suddenly disappeared. People who had insulted me under her posts suddenly became very quiet. I know this because people started messaging me privately saying she deleted everything. Wild how fast her attitude changed. Why is she hiding if she didn't do anything? And instead of her coming to me, apologizing, or even attempting to clear it up, she doubled down in a different way. She called mutual contacts and said I was trying to destroy her reputation, that I was obsessed with being the victim, that I was milking the wedding for attention. The irony would have been funny if it didn't hurt. Then she finally contacted me again from a new number. She didn't start with an apology. She didn't start with a question. She started with, you really love the spotlight, don't you? That sent me off. I wrote back, you mean the spotlight you tried to steal on my wedding day? That spotlight. She said, I was protecting myself. You turned people against me. I responded, no. I told the truth and you got scared. She called me a liar. I called her a narcissist. She said I was jealous. I told her she was pathetic for needing attention on a day that wasn't hers. She wrote, you've always been bitter that people notice me more. And I wrote back, you've always been terrified of the day no one does. We went back and forth like that for a while. Ugly, honest, brutal. Every buried thought came out. She told me I was forgettable. I told her at least I didn't have to degrade someone someone else to feel important. She said my marriage wouldn't last. I told her that at least I had won. She said I was boring. I said she was exhausting. Some part of me felt out of control, but another part felt free, like I had held my tongue my whole life, and now there was nothing left to swallow. Then she took screenshots of the argument, but only her side, and sent them to my parents and a few others as proof that I was attacking her. So suddenly I'm getting messages again. Why would you speak to her like that? You're being so cruel. You're proving her point. And I just snapped back at whoever dared to come at me. She started it. She embarrassed me. She lied on my name. And if you're defending her, you can block me too. I was done being polite, done pretending she was just that way, done letting people tell me to be the bigger person. I was tired of being quiet just so she could be loud. The silence after that was eerie. No one wanted to pick a side openly anymore. Conversations went awkward. People lowered their voices when I entered rooms. Some would stop mid-sentence when I got close. Others would stare at me like they were expecting me to explode. And in the middle of all of that, she stayed completely offline. Update 3. It was late afternoon when it happened. Just a normal, quiet day. No warning. No text. No call. Nothing. I opened the door, and she was just there, standing in front of me like she owned the space. Arms crossed. Eyes already glassy. Face set in this practiced expression she's used since we were kids. The one that makes people instantly feel sorry for her before she even says a word. For a second, I honestly just stared at her. My body went stiff. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. You turned people against me, she said, her voice cracking just enough to sound wounded. It was the fakest, most rehearsed sadness I'd ever seen. She wasn't there to make peace. She was there to perform. You did that to yourself, I replied, and stepped back, not inviting her in, not moving aside. Don't try to rewrite reality again. Her face instantly changed. Tears just stopped, like someone flipped a switch. And then she laughed, this sharp, ugly little laugh that made my stomach twist. You really think you're special, don't you? She said. You think posting a little speech online made you some kind of hero? What I think, I snapped back, is that you showed your true face and people finally stopped buying your act. That's not my problem. Her eyes darkened. She stepped closer, so close I could smell her perfume. Deliberate, intimidating. You think you won something, she whispered, like it was a secret meant only for me. But everyone still prefers me. There it was, the real reason. Not the wedding, not the posts, not the rumors. It was always about that. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't shrink. I didn't look down. I didn't apologize just to keep the peace. I smiled. A slow, calm, deliberate smile that made her blink in confusion. Then why are you standing at my door? I asked. If everyone prefers you, why are you here begging for my attention right now? She didn't say anything for a second. She just stared at me, like she'd never seen me before, like she hadn't prepared for this version of me. Then she exploded. You have always been the problem, she shouted. You've always been jealous of me, always trying to drag me down, even as kids, even now. I laughed this time, and that clearly made her even angrier. Jealous of what? I said. Your need to copy me? Your need to compete with me over everything, even my own wedding? That's not confidence. That's desperation. Shut up, she yelled. No, I yelled right back. You've been telling me to shut up my whole life. You don't get to do that anymore. She started listing things from the past, childhood stuff, old arguments, old jealousy. I threw it right back at her. Every insult she had ever thrown at me. Every time she called me boring. Every time she mocked the way I looked. Every time she acted like she was better. You've always needed me to look small so you could feel big. I screamed. That's the only reason you exist the way you do. Her face flushed red. You're nothing without me, she shot back. People only even talk about you because of me. Exactly, I snapped. Even your biggest moment is still about me. That must be so pathetic. That one hit. I could see it in her eyes. Pure rage mixed with something else. Panic. For a second I thought she might hit me. Her hands balled into fists. Her whole body was shaking, and I didn't move back. I didn't flinch. Get out, I said low and firm. Right now. She looked around, like she was hoping someone was watching, like she wanted an audience. There was none. Just us. And she hated that. This isn't over, she hissed. I know, I replied. But for you, it's already embarrassing. She turned and walked off without another word. No tears this time. No drama. No closing speech. Just rage and silence. After that, my phone started going off. She had already started her version of the story. I was unhinged. I was aggressive. I was changed. I had attacked her. Some family members messaged me, asking what happened. Others didn't ask at all. They just accused. But for once, I didn't rush to explain. I didn't beg to be understood. I didn't soften anything. All I sent back was, "You're hearing from the wrong person." And I left it there. What she didn't know is that a neighbor saw her storm up to my door and start screaming and recorded part of it, just in case. People had already started to realize who the real problem was. And she knew it too. Update 4. There was a family gathering that I almost didn't go to. Not because because I was scared of her, but because I was exhausted. Every time Nora was in the same space as me, something had to happen. Some scene, some comment, some stare down, some whisper that somehow bounced back to me later, twisted into a completely different story. But I showed up anyway, and the second I walked in, I felt the atmosphere shift. You know that feeling when the room goes a little too quiet? Like the air gets tight, like everyone is waiting for something to start? That's exactly how it felt. Conversations kept going, music was still playing, but the energy was different. Heavy, watching, anticipating. Nora was already there. Of course, she was positioned at the center of the room, like she was hosting something instead of just being a guest like everyone else. Laughing too loud, touching people's arms while she spoke, looking around to make sure people were looking at her. Same performance, new audience. I didn't even acknowledge her. I went straight to speak to someone else, trying to ground myself in literally any normal conversation. My goal was simple: get through the night without a scene. That lasted about 20 minutes. Somehow, she got her hands on a microphone. I still don't even know who handed it to her. No one would admit to it later. She clinked a spoon against her glass and said something like, "Wait, everyone. I just want to say something really quick." My entire body tensed. She started with that fake half-laugh, half-sob voice she's perfected. "I just think it's important that we all remember what family means. Because some people," and then she paused, long enough for people to look around, long enough for them to look at me. "Some people forget who's been there for them since the beginning." Murmurs started immediately. I saw heads slowly turning. I saw the side eyes. I heard someone whisper my name under their breath. I just stood there, arms crossed, silent, staring right back at her, daring her to say it clearly instead of hiding behind dramatic pauses. She kept going. "I've stayed quiet for months. I've been the bigger person. I've taken the high road. And yet I'm the one being made to look like a villain." Someone somewhere muttered, "Here we go." She glanced directly at me and said, "I don't know what I ever did to deserve being treated like trash by someone who wouldn't even exist in half these rooms if it weren't for me." That's when the room shifted again. You could physically feel the discomfort spread. That line didn't land the way she wanted it to. Not dramatic, just ugly. Someone near me said, "Whoa," and I heard another, "That's not okay." A cousin called out, "Nora, stop." She didn't. She doubled down. "I just think it's funny how certain people like to play victim online, crying for attention, writing stories so strangers can feel bad for them." Then she smirked, actually smirked, like she was proud of herself. And that's when I finally spoke. I didn't raise the mic. I didn't need one. My voice cut through the room on its own. "You are literally standing here with a microphone, talking about yourself at an event that has nothing to do with you. And you think I'm the one desperate for attention?" Every head snapped toward me. She stared at me like she couldn't believe I had the nerve to speak back. "You think you're the main character in everyone else's life," I continued. "But the truth? You're just loud. That's the only reason people notice you." There were gasps. Someone dropped their drink. Someone else whispered, "Damn." She started shaking her head, fake shock. See how cruel you are? This is exactly what I mean. You're a bitter, jealous." "No," I cut her off. "You're embarrassing." And for the first time, everyone's actually seeing it. That's when someone, not me, not even someone I'm close to, stood up and took the microphone out of her hand, straight up plucked it away and said, "That's enough. You're done." She lost it. "Why are you taking their side?" she yelled, pointing at me. "You all think you're better than me? None of you would even have anything interesting to talk about if it wasn't for me." People were staring now. No laughing, no awkward smiles, just wide eyes and pure discomfort. Someone finally said it out loud. "She's a lot." Another added, "This isn't normal behavior." She heard that and whipped her head around. "You don't even know me." And without even thinking, I snapped back. "We know enough. Trust me. We've had 3 months of your free preview." That line hit harder than I expected. A few people actually laughed. Not the laugh she wanted, the kind that stings. Her face changed in a way I'd never seen before. No charm, no performance, just pure anger, humiliation. And she glared at me. Not subtle, not quiet, just a full, burning, locked-in stare for the entire rest of the night. Like I had just walked onto her stage and burned the whole set down without ever saying another word. The wildest part? After that moment, I said nothing else. Not one more comment about her. Not one more reaction. Not one more glance. And I still somehow ruined her evening just by existing in the same space, breathing, not apologizing, not shrinking. People came up to me quietly after. "Are you okay? She's been weird about you for a while. I didn't realize it was that bad. I'm sorry you had to deal with that." And on the other side of the room, she sat there in total silence, arms folded, jaw tight, eyes locked on me like I had committed some unforgivable crime, when all I actually did was finally refuse to be quiet. She didn't speak to me, didn't approach me, didn't apologize, didn't explain anything. She just watched. Update 5. One random evening, my husband walked into the room with his phone in his hand, not even looking angry, just quiet. That quiet that means something is about to ruin your mood. He handed me the phone without a word, and there it was, a message from her. If you ever need someone more exciting than her, you know where to find me. I swear the air left my lungs. For a second, I didn't even feel hurt. I felt insulted, disrespected, like she wasn't just coming for me anymore. She thought she could step into my marriage and treat it like a game. I looked up at him. He just shook his head and said, I didn't answer. I would never answer that. I wanted you to see this exactly as it came in. That's when the heat hit. My hands were literally shaking, but not because I was scared. I was furious. The kind of anger that burns clean and sharp. She didn't want him. She wanted me to know she sent it. She wanted a reaction. She wanted access to my head again. And this time, I gave her exactly one message. Just one. You don't want my life. You want my attention. You'll never get either again. Then I blocked her on my phone. And blocked her on his too. Double lock. No cracks. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Within days, people starting acting weird around me again. That familiar shift. That whispering. That sudden tension in conversations. You know when you can feel your name is being said without anyone actually saying it out loud? That kind of atmosphere. Finally, someone admitted it to my face. She's telling people you're controlling him. That you won't let him have female friends. That you read his messages and track his calls. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was that ridiculous. So let me get this straight. She openly hits on my husband. He shuts it down. And I'm the villain for blocking her? I snapped. Out loud. In front of multiple people. So I'm controlling for not letting a woman who tried to sleep with my husband continue to have access to him? Is that what we're calling healthy boundaries now? Nobody had an answer. Someone else said, she says you're just insecure because she's more exciting. I didn't even pause. More exciting? She needs to insert herself into other people's marriages just to feel interesting. That's not exciting. That's pathetic. That's spread too. Not because I posted it or told anyone to repeat it, but because she had pushed so many people for so long that the moment someone finally clapped back, it caught fire. She started getting called out everywhere. Not by me, but because of her own mouth. She'd say things like, I was just joking. People are so sensitive. And now people started replying, that's not a joke. That's disrespect. She'd say, they're trying to make me look crazy. And the response she got was, no, you're doing that yourself. One relative actually told her to her face, you're obsessed with someone else's relationship. That's not normal. When that got back to me, I won't lie, it felt surreal. For months, she had been painting me as the dramatic one, the bitter one, the problem. Now people were finally looking at her behavior instead of my reactions. And she hated it. She sent messages to people trying to defend herself, and all she did was expose herself even more. I could have him if I wanted him. She doesn't even deserve him. He looks bored with her. He and I have more chemistry anyway. When someone showed me that screenshot, my only thought was, you don't sound confident. You sound unhinged. At the next gathering, she didn't even speak to me. She didn't dare. She'd lost her runway. Her audience had stopped feeding into it, but she still watched me the entire time. Every laugh I had, every time my husband touched my hand, every time someone spoke to me instead of her. And I could feel it, the rage, the jealousy, the humiliation, but I didn't give her a single glance. Not one word, not one reaction, and it drove her more insane than if I had screamed. Later, I heard she slammed a door so hard it actually scared someone. She's spiraling, was the exact phrase used. And for the first time since this all started, the narrative wasn't split anymore. It wasn't her side versus my side. It was just her, and the mess she kept making. Update 6. A family event came up. One of those everyone is expected to be their things. Formal invites, group chats lighting up, people coordinating outfits and rides. Her name wasn't on the list. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Then I got a message from someone involved in the planning. Just so you know, she's not invited. That wasn't your doing. Just wanted to be clear. I stared at my screen for a long time. Not because I was happy, not because I was sad, but because it finally hit me that I wasn't the only one seeing it anymore. She had done this to herself, in front of everyone, repeatedly, loudly, over and over again. And now people had finally had enough. She heard about it somehow. Of course she did. She always does. And she lost it. She started messaging anyone she thought might defend her. I saw some of the screenshots later. Pure chaos. How dare you cut me out like I'm nothing after everything I've done for this family? She is poisoning all of you against me. You're all blind. You've been brainwashed by her. She isn't even that special. That last one made me laugh, actually. Not because it was funny, but because it was so clearly jealousy masked as insult. Then someone finally snapped back at her in a way nobody ever had before. No, this isn't about her. This is about you. You ruin every space you enter. I don't think anyone had ever spoken to her like that. Ever. And once one person said it, others followed. She ruined her own reputation. She embarrassed herself at the wedding. She never respected boundaries. She made everything about herself. She crossed lines that can't be uncrossed. For the first time in my life, people were speaking the truth out loud, and she heard it all. When we finally crossed paths again, it was unplanned. No warning, just walking into a space, and suddenly there she was, frozen, staring at me like she didn't know whether to attack or run. She chose attack. Of course she did. So you finally got what you wanted, huh? She snapped. Everyone hating me. Congratulations. I didn't even raise my voice at first. That seemed to bother her more. I didn't ask anyone to hate you. You did that fine on your own. Her face twisted. You think you're better than me now? I looked her straight in the eyes. No, I think I'm at peace without you. And that's what you can't stand. That's when she raised her voice, loud enough for heads to turn. You stole my place, my role, my attention, my family. I stepped closer so she couldn't twist my words later. You were never entitled to any of that. And you don't get to rewrite reality just because yours collapsed. Someone told her to calm down. She pointed at me like I was the criminal. She is fake. She plays the victim. She always has. You're all falling for it. And that's when someone else yelled back at her. No, we saw who you really are. It wasn't even me fighting then. It was everyone else. And the rage on her face? I will never forget it. Because it wasn't just anger at me anymore. It was humiliation, powerlessness, the realization that she lost control of the room she once thought belonged to her forever. Later, people came up to me, one by one, quietly, carefully. I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner. I should have stepped in years ago. She always treated you wrong. You never deserved that. We let her get away with too much for too long. And every time I heard those words, something inside me did not feel warm. It just felt heavy, because they were right. And that truth doesn't come without damage. Then there were the ones who had one-sided with her. The same voices that told me I was being dramatic, sensitive, overreacting. The ones who told me to just be the bigger person. They suddenly couldn't even look at me in the eyes. One of them actually tried to laugh it off and said, well, you know how she is. And I finally snapped. No, stop saying that. Don't excuse her. You don't get to minimize what she did just because you don't want to feel guilty for ignoring it. Silence. Then, you're right. Not whispered. Said out loud. That was new. She heard about those apologies too. And apparently, she flipped again, called someone, and just screamed down the phone. After everything, you're all taking her side? The answer she got? There are no sides. There's just behavior. And yours is the problem. That was it. No defending. No sugarcoating. No, that's just how she is anymore. Just the truth. And she couldn't stand that the truth didn't include her being the center of attention. Now she barely shows up anywhere. When she does, nobody asks anything about her life. Nobody crowds around her. Nobody laughs too loud at her jokes. The spotlight she lived for, it moved on without her. And she knows exactly why. But somehow, even 6 months later, I can still feel it. That she hasn't let go. That she's not done. Update 7. After months of silence from her, after blocking her on every possible platform, I thought she had finally moved on. The messages stopped. The fake accounts stopped. The weird comments getting back to me through acquaintances stopped. The random people checking in stopped. For the first time in a long time, it felt like I could breathe without waiting for the next wave of drama. Then she found another way. She contacted someone close to me. Not my husband, not family. Someone I trusted, someone who had been supportive the entire time. She told them this long, twisted, theatrical story about how I was the problem, how I manipulated everyone, how I was obsessed with ruining her life, how I was jealous of her confidence, how she had been walking on eggshells around me for years, how I used my wedding to make her look insane. She said I planned everything. She said I provoked her. She said I edited people against her. She said I was cruel. She said I was calculated. She said I was unstable. And for a second, I almost laughed because it was the most unintentional confession I'd ever heard. The person she told, they didn't sympathize. They didn't defend her. They didn't even argue with her. They just said, that doesn't sound like her at all. And that was it. She lost control completely. According to what I was told, she started yelling, pacing, spiraling. She accused them of switching sides. She demanded they stay loyal. She said absolutely unreal things about me, my husband, my relationship, my personality, my entire life. It wasn't sad. It wasn't dramatic. It was just exposed, raw, unfiltered, ugly. When that got back to me, something strange happened. I didn't feel angry. I felt above it. Still, I broke my silence for the first time in months. Not to her, to the few people still defending her. I told them exactly what she said, exactly how she behaved. And I said, calmly, you can keep excusing her, but don't ever confuse that with me forgiving her. Some tried to talk over me. Some tried to play neutral. Some tried the usual, she's still your sister nonsense. And for the first time ever, I didn't hold back. I unloaded. I told them how she humiliated me on purpose. I told them how she made my wedding a stage for her ego. I told them how she flirted with my husband. I told them how she mocked my relationship. I told them how she enjoyed hurting me. I told them how long this behavior had been happening. I brought up things I had never even admitted out loud before. And when they tried to interrupt or soften it, I shut them down. Don't downplay it. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't pretend this is normal. You weren't the one standing in my place being laughed at. Some went silent. Some looked embarrassed. Some tried to change the subject. But I wasn't done, because I deserved to say it, after years of swallowing it. And then, the final twist. She tried once more to reach me. A new new number, a new angle, a new fake calm. Her message wasn't long. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't apologetic. It was bitter. It said, "You really think you won, don't you?" I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I typed one single response. "I didn't win. You just finally lost access to me." And I blocked that number too. Here's the part no one expected. She started unraveling publicly. No big dramatic meltdown online, just little cracks. Relationships pulled away. Friends distanced themselves. Event invites stopped. Opportunities dried up. People grew cautious around her. Conversations went quiet when she entered a room, not because I said anything, but because she couldn't hide herself anymore. And me? I stopped checking. I stopped caring. I stopped wondering what she was doing. People started inviting me places more, including me more, trusting me more, listening to me more, not out of pity, out of respect. And every time someone tried to bring her name up, I shut it down by saying, "She's not part of my life anymore. Please don't make her one." No arguing, no tears, no side-taking, just final. So here's the truth of how this ends. She tried to make me small in front of everyone. She tried to embarrass me publicly. She tried to twist the story. She tried to poison people against me. She tried to break me down and rewrite the narrative. Instead, she forced me to finally see my own strength, my own boundaries, my own voice, my own power. Not the kind that needs applause, not the kind that needs attention, the kind that simply stands and doesn't move again. I don't wonder about her anymore. I don't hate her. I don't miss her. I don't relive it. She is just someone who used to exist in my world, and now she doesn't. The end. Nora rolled up to that wedding like it was her personal red carpet, wearing off-white, "Oops, I'm basically the bride," hogging the bridal suite, laughing during the vows, hijacking a mic to roast the actual bride, then posting shady captions like "Side characters shine too," while first texting the groom. That's not sibling rivalry. That's a full-time attention parasite in human form. That OP finally snapped, blocked her, told the truth, and refused to rug sweep anymore. Family called her dramatic. Turns out the family just hated consequences more than they hated cruelty. Nta. Not even close. The sister didn't get cut off. She self-destructed so hard the whole family finally saw the explosion in daylight. OP just stopped handing her the matches. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out AITA for being erased from my own family business by my brother. Click here to watch it now.